Well, guys, thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks for having us.
You're like, you better not fucking drink out of that bottle.
It wouldn't be the first time somebody's done that.
Yeah, actually, most of that bottle has been drank that way.
So right now we are recording, but I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I'm going to edit the video, so it isn't like everything you have to say has to be on. If there was an answer or something you want to do over, we can do it. But don't worry,
I just say line.
I'll just do the line. But don't worry, I'll make the magic happen when I edit the video.
Is that what you say when you get lady friends over?
Yeah, that's exactly what I say.
Would you like to come into my Tiki room? Not telling them it's in your bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, whoa! It looks more.
Would you like to see my Tiki gods?
No, I have a feeling that having a Tiki bedroom is probably most women would be like, "What the fuck is that shit?"
But those aren't women that you want, are they?
No, I guess not.
It's a good litmus test.
Yeah, that's a litmus test.
How does this make you feel?
Get me out of here. Well, I guess that answers that.
Yeah.
No, but I'll be honest with you. I mean, there's a truth to that. When it comes to two people being compatible, and you got to have things in common.
Yes.
Basic stuff you got to have in common, because it's like, if you don't have anything in common, then what are you going to do? If she's into camping and you hate camping, it's not going to work.
We have that problem.
You actually do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's into camping. I'm not into camping.
Oh, for reals?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is you guys actually have a lot of other things in common.
Yeah.
We do.
This is Evan and Sarah Bailey,
Hello.
Hello.
and we are on their boat called Duffy. And I'll tell you what, your place is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I was very skeptical. I didn't know when you said, "Yeah, come on our boat and we'll film." I'm like, are we going to be like exposed to the elements or something like that? But this is really, really cool. It's like very 50s looking, a lot of dark wood, green.
I know how you like dark wood.
I like dark wood. Yeah.
Actually, essentially, this
Thanks,
whole boat
Sarah.
is dark wood. Yeah.
But the thing about Sara and Evan is, I'm really painting with broad strokes here, but from talking to you guys, guys both have a love of boats.
Yes.
A love of vintage.
Yes.
Right.
And, of course, Tiki, because I always see you guys at the Devil's Reef down in Tacoma Cabana. So what I want to know is I want to hear your story, because it's very unique and how you guys met.
It is.
So who wants to take the reins on this one?
G-rated, right?
It could be any rated.
Oh.
Actually, let's have the X-rated version.
Oh,
Oh, I don't think
I
I'm
don't
ready
think we
to.
can.
No, because my mom wants to see this.
Yeah.
All right, well then make it PG-13 then.
Okay.
Okay.
No, how old's your mom?
How old is my mom?
Yeah.
I'd have to do
She's
that.
not 18, right? She's over 18.
Yes.
Well then, let's do the rated R version of how you guys met. So, Sarah's mom, get ready. You're gonna learn some things about your daughter that you didn't know before.
Well,
When you're gonna watch this, you're gonna be watching, and your mom's gonna be like clenching her teeth the whole time, like.
is she gonna tell me she has another tattoo?
Oh, it's like if that's
No.
I have a feeling that'd be the least of your mom's concerns at this point.
It's the location of said tattoos.
I didn't even know she had tattoos. As soon as the video goes live, 15 minutes later, there's a phone call. It's your mom. Sarah, now what did I tell you? So, how did you two meet?
Working on tall ships.
Yeah.
No, what?
Working on tall ships.
What does that mean? What's a tall ship?
So,
I mean, outside of the obvious
It's a ship
answer.
that is tall.
traditional sailing vessel. So, when you think of, well, I hate to say it, but when you think of a pirate ship, that's a tall ship. Usually square sails. A tall ship technically means that there's one mast and then there's another mast put on top of it. And in the case of the boats we worked on, there were sometimes 3 masts.
Are these literally sailing ships?
Yes.
Yes.
Because your boat doesn't
No.
sail.
No, ours is not a sailboat. But we worked on Lady Washington and Hawaiian Chieftain. Hawaiian Chieftain is the boat that we met on, and it's a sail training vessel, and they educate history programs to school kids. That's their main objective, and they take people out sailing.
And that was your job.
That was my job. I was the first mate on board.
First mate, what does that mean?
That's like second in command.
Second in command.
Second in command. So my job was to organize the crew, help with navigation,
She was the vice principal.
You also worked on this boat.
I did, off and on. I was in the Army. And
Yeah, but you didn't. Did you do this job while you were in the service then?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would save up all of my leave, and anytime I'd have a bunch of leaves saved up, I'd go out and do a short contract working on these tall ships.
What would you do on, like, what would be your job?
Usually I was just a deckhand, so I was the manual labor.
Okay.
Is basically how it worked out.
And we hit it off because I found he was actually useful.
Yeah,
He could do things and fix things.
I'll tell you what, Evan, I'm very impressed with your productivity.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Why don't you step into my office and we can talk about it? So no, did you come on? Did you come on there, or did you come to who made the first? Who made the first move? Well, there I was on the deck, just minding my own business.
That's a very complicated story.
Yeah.
But we started out as friends.
Right.
That's we hit it off as friends, and we were both into antiques and history and old movies and old music, and so we started talking about that stuff and hit it off on our days off. We'd go antiquing in whatever port we were in, and go look for vintage clothes, and it was a lot.
So the love of boats was, I guess, a given,
Yes.
Right.
essentially.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask a stupid question. I'm assuming anyone that would work on a ship would have a love of boats and nautical and everything.
You kind of need to.
There's that, but in the tall ship community, there's a lot of people just trying it out for the sake of trying out a new thing, and a lot of those people, they go on one of two paths. They either stick with it and they decide that they love boats and they want to do that for the rest of their lives, or they're like, nope, I checked that off my list of things to do, and they never do it again. So there's a lot of that. I was definitely in the first camp.
Yeah. Because you were saying that you would go out for a long period of time, right?
Yeah. So the boats we worked on travel the whole West Coast. And they go from Canada down to San Diego, up the Columbia River. And so you're not necessarily out to sea for any length of time. I think 5 or 6 days is probably the max. Traveling from Westport down to San Francisco. That's one of the longer hauls, because how they make money is to stop in ports and do education programs, take people sailing. So they hop down the coast, and they do it year round.
But you're saying that, you would be on a boat for several days at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we lived on the boat.
You literally lived on the boat.
Yes,
Right.
you'd have like a contract. So my contracts were usually 6 months. The longest I stayed on board at one time was a year. And then,
you lived on the boat for a year.
Yeah. And then you might...
I mean, did you like that? Is it cool?
No, I
or
loved it.
Oh, you did? All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your living space? Do you have like
you have a bunk.
a bunk?
Yeah.
You're in a room with other bunks, or
So it depends on...
so you don't have your own bedroom?
No. It depends on the boat, and it depends on the where you are in the crew. There's usually a community living space where there's anywhere from 8 bunks to more or less, and then there's usually like an officer's quarters where there might be 3 or 4 bunks. Again, you're there with other people. You have a curtain on your bed. That's your privacy. And you might have some shelves or like a little cubby to put your stuff in. And then usually the captain has their own room with a door. They have their own cabin. And then on some of the boats, the first mate also has a room with a door.
Wow. But you loved it, though.
No, I loved it.
Yeah.
I did it for 6 years.
Well, how did you get into... you're originally from Los Angeles.
Yes.
How did you get into boats?
I worked at the Renaissance Fair.
Or the Renaissance Fair. Right?
Yeah, I worked at the Southern California and the Northern California Renaissance Fair, and did that for a long time since I got out of high school. And that kind of, through that I met all sorts of interesting people, and one of them was somebody who worked on the tall ships, and when they came to town, invited me to come out sailing, and I was hooked immediately. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I didn't know people did that. And so as soon as I could, I saved up money to take time off work and go do their 2-week training program. And then after that, I was hooked. I just stayed.
And then for you, it kind of was, did it stem out of like being in the service?
No, not really.
No, okay.
I was, mine kind of all started in a bar in Seattle. And I was out drinking with a friend of mine who had just come back from a contract on Lady Washington.
Okay.
And he basically said that this was the greatest thing in the world and you need to go do this. And I was like, well, I got some time off in a few months. Sure, I'll do that. And same deal. I went out for the 2-week training program, and then I just kept going back. Anytime I'd have an extended period of time off, I would just go on the boats.
So what is it that you like about it, though?
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
It's hard work. And
so what you're saying is you like real hard work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do, actually. Yeah. But especially when you're out sailing, you're sailing in the elements. Like, there's real danger involved. You have to do your job well, in order to keep everybody safe, in order for the boat to be safe and the passengers to be safe. My first job on board was actually as the cook. That's what my background was before I got into boats. And so, just making sure I had hot meals ready to go for the whole crew. That's really important for morale. And then on top of that, I would, in my extra spare time, ask, hey, what else can I do? Teach me this. And I'd go around to different crew members and have them teach me things. Wow. And then I worked my way into I was a bosun on the boat for a year. And we did a down rig, which means we took like one whole mast apart, all the sails off, all the lines off. And I went through and redid them all and then put them back up. And so that was what I loved to do. And then I was mate a couple of times, which I enjoyed. But I realized after my last contract, I really liked fixing the boat more than I liked being in charge of the crew.
Okay.
Right.
So.
And I think it's a matter of it's the camaraderie, it's the hard work, it's when you're there, you're part of a crew. Whether you like everybody on the crew or not, you have to get along with them, because if everybody doesn't work together, the boat doesn't go. It's a sailboat, right?
Like literally.
It literally does not go.
Wow.
And in worst case,
full-on teamwork.
It's teamwork. You have to work all the time. There's always somebody doing something on the boat, even if it's not your watch and it's theoretically your time off. You're hanging out up on the quarterdeck or in the aft cabin, learning stuff. You're reading books. You're looking at charts. It's just learning. It's total immersion in exactly what you're there to do.
Yeah.
And it's great. And
so you guys worked together then for a while then?
Yes.
And then what would you do? Like, so when you come to port, then you'd go, hey, we're in Los Angeles, let's go look at some antique shops, or let's go look at vintage clothing and stuff like that.
Yeah, let's go find a bar.
Let's go find a bar.
Stay out till 4 a.m.
Yeah. And it on a boat, it's you work hard, you play hard. Mm-hmm. So when you come into town, it's where's the nearest point of alcohol? Let's go spend all of our money and on some.
Where's the nearest point of alcohol?
Yeah.
I'm gonna love that. That's
great. Yeah, and you just get out there and you just you drink and you go do karaoke and you have fun with these people that you spent the last week learning to hate, and then you love them more, and then you get back on the boat and you go somewhere else and you do it all over again. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. It's great.
Well, how did you guys become more than friends then?
Alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got Sarah drunk one night and.
Oh.
Yeah, kind of.
Are you going to go into the history details?
We'll keep it PG.
Okay.
We'll keep it PG.
Well, yeah.
So we had been on Hawaiian Chieftain for a few months and fostering our friendship and whatnot, and then there was one point where the two boats, Hawaiian Chieftain and Lady Washington, more or less stay with one another throughout the year. They do that, but there were two different charters at that time where the boats were going to split up for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And the night before that happened, both crews got together and it was, we're going to have this knockdown, drag out, hardcore party before the boats split up for the next couple weeks. And
it was a gin and tonic party.
There was a lot of gin and there was not a lot of tonic.
Yeah.
And we had people in the marina telling us to keep it down and go to bed. And
at some point I changed clothes with one of my guy friends and he ended up wearing my dress and falling in the water.
Oh God.
It was a full-on debaucherous party, and it was one of those where by the end of the night we were just kind of hanging out together. And
all right, well, let's talk about the.
There were no.
There
was nothing bad coming up. Nothing happened that night.
Let's get down to the brass tacks. I mean, you guys are hanging out together as friends,
right?
But did one person like the other one, or did you both like each other, but you just couldn't?
Well, we were both married at the time.
To other people.
To different peoples at the time.
Okay, well then that explains it. Then. All right.
That's what we're pussy.
Because I'm like, you guys are like, man, this is like so fucking high school.
We were trying.
Well, I like her, and we have so much. Okay, makes sense.
Yes, we were trying not to like each other.
We were trying not to like each other.
We were both in bad marriages that were ending. We were both in denial about that. And
then finally, you just said, "Fuck it."
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. It just took some gin to break that ice.
Yeah. So if you ever think so, pro tip from Evan and Sarah Bailey: if you're thinking about breaking up with your significant other, gin.
Yes.
Gin, lots of it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You just drink enough gin, and you're like, listen, we gotta talk. And the reality is, this is probably the best decision you guys ever made.
I'd be confident in agreeing with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
You're like, you better say yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys have been together ever since then. When did you guys get married then?
2 years later.
2 years later.
Yeah.
What year was that?
2013.
2013. So now it's 2019.
Yeah.
So you guys have been together a long time. Now, while you guys both worked on boats, was the plan to buy your own boat eventually?
It was always kind of one of those things that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Having our own boat and doing our own thing.
Yeah.
When she moved up here from Los Angeles, she ended up going to school for marine carpentry.
Yeah, I went to Seattle Central Community College. Went to their marine carpentry program.
Wow.
And
so she has a degree in
marine carpentry.
Yep.
Building.
I would have never.
Yeah. Building.
Two words that I would never thought had gone together, and I guess they completely make sense.
Right. Yeah. So she has a degree in building wooden boats, and at the time I was still working for the Army, and it was just one of those things where planets kind of aligned, and we wanted a boat, and this one happened along, and well, now we have a boat.
I know you guys have a love of boats. You have a love of vintage.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you both are totally into Tiki as well. I mean, that's how I met you. How did the Tiki part of it come into play?
I think I had always had this cursory knowledge of Tiki. Like when I was growing up, I was really into like the culture of 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about before.
Yeah.
During the summers, I'd live at my grandma's house, and my grandma, the newest piece of furniture in her house was probably bought in 1958. So that was comforting, right? So I was always into 50s culture, 60s culture. I was into hot rods, custom cars, classic cars. I grew up at, going to car shows with my dad, doing vintage racing with my dad and my uncle. And it was after we'd moved to Tacoma, and we had an old house that we decorated all 50s, and we decided, well, we're going to have a Tiki party, because that's what people do, is they have Tiki parties, damn it. And,
yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, like, it seemed to me like if you look at any vintage pictures that you ever see, they're always having a luau.
Right.
Because it's easy to do. It's a theme that's easy.
Yes, and yeah.
And so that kind of stoked it, and then we had to get a tiki bar for the house, and we started just the 50s house slowly turned into a mid-century tiki house, and then this curious little place in downtown Tacoma called Tacoma Cabana opened up, and I think we went there like the third day they were open, and then basically we became furniture there because we were there so often and hanging out with Jason and Robin and all those folks, and just at that point it was like, all right, we're all in, we're going to fully embrace it, and here we are.
So what about you, Sarah? Like,
so growing up in LA, I was always a Disney kid. I loved going to Disneyland. Yeah. So I would say one of my first memories of Disneyland was going into the Enchanted Tiki Room, and I thought those birds were real. Like, my memory of it, I didn't go back until I was like a teenager, and I was like, oh, I need to go in here.
Oh yeah, that's right. Birds
and
don't
I went
talk,
in, and I was like, they aren't real. I just, I was young enough where I thought they were flying around talking to me, singing me songs.
What kind of world do you live in where birds can actually talk?
I think that's called being 4.
We had a parrot. He could talk.
That's okay. I've talked to people where like how there was a point in time where everything was in black and white in television. I've heard this from several people that I know where like they honestly felt that like life back before like 19 whatever was in black and white. So when did things become in color?
Right.
So that's probably my first memory of Tiki.
Yeah.
But I always loved that, and I grew up near Damon's. Damon's was always a place that we went to for special dinners or out as a family or before prom or something. Okay. So that was, I wouldn't say I was super into Tiki. I didn't realize it was even such a big thing. I just these were just places I had been to, and I liked.
Yeah, well, that as you're saying that, I'm immediately probably thinking you're not thinking of Damon's as Damon's.
Right.
Yeah.
In a lot of the places that are in Los Angeles or the Los Angeles area, oh yeah, that's Canvas.
Right.
That's the brown derby. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
You just, and then I think it isn't until you probably got a little bit older you realize like, oh, these places are special. There's a history to them and everything like that.
Right, and so I was always into vintage. I don't know really what got me into it. Watching, old movies a lot as a kid. I was exposed to a lot of old movies, a lot of old music, and I always appreciated that. And so, yeah, I've always been into vintage stuff. I got really into swing dancing in high school, and that kind of got me more into...
In high school?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, into the 40s and 50s. And... Again, I was always into old movies, and so that kind of got me into the vintage thing and into the Tiki. And again, we didn't really even know there was such thing as the Tiki scene until we kind of jumped into.
No, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's the same thing for me too. Like, I've been into Tiki bars and going to Tiki bars for over a decade, but I didn't realize that there was a culture to it, that there was a lifestyle to it until literally, probably a year before I started my blog. So that was. I didn't know, I mean, I didn't realize that this is something that you can fully embrace. I mean, as it's funny, it's like as we're sitting here on your boat and stuff like that, we're looking at your curtains. This is definitely Tiki. But like if I wouldn't say anything, this doesn't look out of place or anything like that. This totally fits in. I think the thing about Tiki, like for me, is I have a love of mid-century. This is the same as you guys, but it's so tied to those decades that it's like it's very hard for me to separate.
Right.
Like it's kind of like if you like one, you're gonna like the other. It's always the same thing, It's like I've never talked to someone who's like, oh, I love the fashion, but I hate the furniture.
Right.
There's never. It's like you're either you're into everything or you're into like none of it.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's so many of these cultures, right, that we like to think that they coexisted and intermingled and all that, but they may have 50, 60, 70 years ago, but now they've all kind of gone into these different routes. Like you've got the rockabilly kids and the Tiki kids and the hot rodders and the swing dancers and then in swing dancing you've got like the Lindy Hoppers and then you have the swing dancers and then you've got all these. Everybody keeps compartmentalizing and well, no, I'm into this and
it is because you can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny because I was talking to a guy, he's an old Seattle guy, and he was telling me how that there was something that I didn't realize until he said it, and it made complete sense, that there was a difference between the swing dancing scene and the lounge scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the music, the culture, the everything. I didn't realize that those were kind of two separate things. Mm-hmm. I think what's awesome is that we're at a point where you can compartmentalize that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I think what's most important, the main thing that I love about your story of how you guys met, and it just is the fact that if you're going to meet somebody, you both need to be into the same things.
Right.
Yes.
You both need to have the same common ground. Because say, like if you pulled out hiking, what would you say, camping is one thing. That's one thing. But like say if like one person is into boats and the other one isn't, how's it going to work?
Or old cars, if I didn't also like old cars, I probably wouldn't put up with having somebody.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is so giving dating advice to everyone out there. You got to meet somebody who has the same common interest as you, or it's not going to work.
If they go into your Tiki bedroom and freak out, it's probably not a match made in heaven.
I think what's interesting is, even though we're on a boat and it's moving, it's like you probably won't even notice it because everything's moving at the same time.
Right.
So maybe,
unless you can see out the window.
So maybe for effect, Evan, can you stand behind the camera and as we're talking, you just kind of do this every once in a while?
Yeah.
To make it seem like we're really on a boat?
No.
Should I put on one of those yellow?
We have a life jacket if you need it. Oh, you mean this hat right here?
Yeah. Yeah, do you want me to wear that as a... It smells of awkward. Do you think I'm going to pick up the honeys with this?
Worked for me.
So
it depends on what kind of honeys you're looking for.
When you first met Evan, was he wearing one of these hats?
That's mine actually.
So Evan, when you first saw Sarah, when I saw her with that orange cap,
yeah,
I knew she was mine.
Oh man, I knew that was the woman for me.
It's a Gruden's. That's a good brand.
Yeah.
Hey gang, this is Tiki with Ray, and I just want to say thank you very much for checking out my video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more episodes, click on the subscribe button. And if you liked the video, give it a like. That would mean a lot to me. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave a comment in the comment section below.